Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlicker shows, dust stars, peasants, vassals, ala barbecuities. I'm a useful idiot, and today I want to talk about this very, very interesting story about the 28 pages, redacted pages, about Saudi involvement in 9/11. And I looked at this, and I think it's pretty damning, and it will be interesting to see if efforts by Congressman Stephen Lynch and Walter Jones, if their efforts will be successful in getting these 28 pages, 28 pages exposed. These 28 pages are not just redacted; they're completely blank. And these are 28 pages that were part of an 800-page report about 9/11. And President Bush personally had these 28 pages completely censored. And not only that, 7,200 words, and basically talks about the financing behind 9/11. And this is something that the Bush family, and certainly with their connections to the Saud family, this is something that he could not have come out. And let's backtrack a little bit and remind everyone that, as everyone should remember, 15 out of the 19 hijackers were Saudi Arabian citizens. And the fact that we know that a lot of the money has already been traced back to donors in Saudi Arabia. But as it turns out, Saudi government officials were also involved, not just Saudi hardliners, because some of this information has come out. It's from the censored section of this report on Saudi involvement in 9/11. And these two congressmen recently read the pages, and they were, quote, absolutely shocked, unquote, at the level of foreign state involvement in the 9/11 attacks. So now they are proposing legislation to declassify the entire document. So, you know, how interesting is that? It turns out the United States invaded the wrong country, not Afghanistan, not Iraq, but Saudi Arabia. There was a foreign government sponsor of the event. And no shocker there for people who have been paying attention. The evidence is pretty clear that both Saudi Arabia and Israel had advanced knowledge of the attack and or were involved to some degree, even if just only complicit. But the high-level diplomats and intelligence officers of Saudi Arabia are involved. Then it seems to me there is a state connection, and this reveals that Saudi Arabia was a major player behind this event. And there's all kinds of little anomalies that point in the same direction. The fact that U.S. case agents were called off leads that led to the Saudi embassy. And I think most of us recall as well that something like 144 members of the Saudi Arabia family, as well as members of the bin Laden family, were skirted out of the country immediately after the 9/11 attacks, even though airspace was restricted for most other travel. So let's go through this sequence of events that are supposedly revealed in these documents. And I think putting it in a nutshell, like I'm going to try and do, makes it all the more clear that this pattern is pretty revealing and pretty damning. So anyway, it starts out in Los Angeles, where a Saudi consulate member and an intelligence officer had an advance team to receive two of the hijackers at LA Los Angeles Airport in the year 2000. Then in San Diego, another intelligence officer and the same Saudi consulate set up rooms, rent, and phones for the hijackers after leaving Los Angeles. And then they set up the meetings with cleric Anwar al-Awlaki at a Saudi-funded mosque. And granted, the fact that they were meeting at a Saudi mosque and a funded mosque with a cleric doesn't necessarily implicate the Saudi government, but the fact that there's an intelligence officer and a consulate involved certainly has implications. Then we go to Washington, D.C., where then Saudi ambassador to the U.S., Prince Bandar, Let's remember that. Prince Bandar is going to show up again. Sent checks totaling $130,000 to these same intelligence officers, as well as other large funding of other al-Qaeda groups. And so we have another direct connection. The Saudi ambassador, Prince Bandar, basically paying off intelligence officers who are handling some of the hijackers from 9/11. And then we have Falls Church, Virginia in 2001. That same cleric, al-Awlaki, and the San Diego hijackers turn up together again, this time at another Saudi-funded mosque near the Pentagon, and they set up apartments and IDs. And as we already know, al-Awlaki had numerous official ties with the Saudi embassy, and he fled a year later after, of course, the 9/11 attacks on a Saudi jet. And a warrant for his arrest was withdrawn at that time in the United States. But then, of course, he met his untimely death killed by a drone in Yemen in 2011. So I guess they finally caught up with him, and that now it makes sense why they had to go out of their way to silence this guy. And then we have in Herndon, Virginia, on the eve of the attacks, top Saudi government official Saleh Hussein checked into the same Marriott hotel near Dulles Airport outside of D.C. as three of the hijackers. So there we have another Saudi government official getting cozy with three of the hijackers. And then Sarasota, Florida. Several of the hijackers, including Mohammed Atta, visited the home of a Saudi advisor to the king. And 2 weeks before the attack, this luxury home was completely abandoned. So there is the sequence of events. And certainly, there could be some rogue elements in the Saudi government. There could be rogue elements in the Saudi intelligence community. These people could conceivably have been operating on their own. But it seems like there's 3 or 4 at least, and we know of other connections back to Saudi Arabia as well. So it's important that this is revealed. And this is all the more relevant considering where we are now, where Saudi Arabia is talking about perhaps having a nuclear bomb delivered from Pakistan, basically staking out its own policy and claims over Egypt, and as well as wanting to have its own policy arming the opposition in al-Qaeda in Syria fighting the Assad government. So Saudi Arabia is now staking out its own foreign policy, which aligns nicely with Israel's, incidentally. But as promised, I wanted to talk more about Prince Bandar, because now, of course, he's running things in Saudi Arabia as far as Saudi Arabian foreign policy. And he is now pushing for war in Syria and pushing for war with Iran. So ironic that we get this turnaround. Interesting continuity if one considers that the events of 9/11 got the United States to attack Iraq and Afghanistan, and now Saudi Arabia's policy is to take down Syria and Iran. So a continuity of foreign policy there as well, certainly as far as Saudi Arabia is concerned. So very interesting story. There are attachments below if you want to look at that a little more closely. But that is the story. So if this is true, it also has a lot of serious implications for President George Bush. And this could conceivably put him on the level of having committed treason. And, well, I'm just saying. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.